And now for the next 10 months, the gloves are off. I can finally speak unvarnished truth to power and say what I really think about Donald Trump.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. I'm not going to spoil the rest of Colbert's bit. You've got to see it. I'll put the link below. But if we've learned anything from the drama surrounding Paramount's canceling of The Late Show and Trump's attempt to silence one of his most prominent critics, it's that bullies can't take a punch. I've said it here often. Courage is contagious, and so is cowardice. Trump and the people around him are cowards. And finally, their fear of their own supporters of the truth is making them panic. I have to believe that some of them, those who care about the judgment of history, know that their legacy, the stories their kids and grandkids tell about them, will be woven through with a deep sense of shame. And yet they remain cowards, unable to stand up to the coward in chief. So it's all the more uplifting to see Stephen Colbert exit the stage with his head held high. And I think we can be pretty sure that this won't be the last stage he appears on. I talked about this with Kris Goldsmith, the founder of Veterans Fighting Fascism. In part one of our conversation, Kris reminded us of Tim Snyder's authoritarian blueprint. One of the critical elements of the authoritarian takeover is when subjects choose to comply in advance. Well, unlike the executives at Paramount, we're not Trump's subjects, and like Stephen Colbert, we have no intention of complying. Here's part two of my conversation with Kris Goldsmith. I would love to see Stephen Colbert strike out on his own or align with one of the independent media networks like Midas Touch. We've already reached out to him. I don't know if you saw Ben's open letter, but I think the moment is fast approaching, if it's not already here, when we can like stick the knife in legacy media and say you had your chance and you blew it. You put corporate interests and the bottom line ahead of informing the public and your responsibilities as the fourth estate. We're going to carry the torch from here. Thanks. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And I think Stephen Colbert is going to be fine. And I can't wait to see his next act.
Yeah. And seeing him, frankly, I think he's always been pretty unrestrained. He doesn't seem like someone who is self-censored, but seeing him a little pissed off will, I think, be great for all of us. You know, we see it in his colleague, Jon Stewart, the anger comes through, and I think it helps to engage people, help Americans understand, you know, the urgency of the situation, you know. And again, I know this is a lot of pitching, but Find Out is the podcast that I'm doing with a bunch of guys that I met through White Dudes for Harris. We have been breaking over 100,000 downloads per month, which for any podcast is tremendous, especially a bunch of guys who've not really done anything like this before. On Offense, my Substack, I am turning into a podcast on the Valor Media Network with Ken. That will be launching in September. Right now, we are building out the brand. We are planning the first few episodes, and we're going to be talking about how to go on offense for democracy, because for 10 years, we've been hearing all these people, the academics, the activists, talking about defending democracy. We can't just defend democracy. We have to impose costs on the opposition, legal costs, to slow them down, to create opportunities to take away their resources that they would otherwise use to harm people. So people need to stay tuned, follow Ken, follow me, go to a Substack, go to YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our channels, because we're not going down without a fight. We are not, you know, beholden to any corporate oligarchs, you know, short of them taking away our YouTube channels and kicking us off Substack. We're not going anywhere. We are going to fight until we can't fight anymore.
We'll put all the links down below in the show notes. I really do think there is an opportunity here, that this is on an inflection point. And as outraged as I am to see corporate media buckling to the pressures applied by the Trump regime, I think it provides not just validation, but an invitation to other media efforts and enterprises and entrepreneurial efforts in particular to carry the torch from here. Hey, it's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break to say thank you to everyone who's been following and supporting this show and this channel. None of it happens without you. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my Substack page, I'd really appreciate the follow. It's a great way to make sure you never miss an episode. It's free to sign up. And if you're able to pitch in a few bucks, every dollar goes back into the show. Just search for The Ken Harbaugh Show on Substack or click the link below. Thanks. Kris, I alluded to the Orban-esque nature of the pressure being applied on American media companies these days. I probably should have explained that, but can you help illuminate how the would-be autocrat who runs Hungary, allied with Trumpism and Putinism for that matter, has used legal mechanisms and threats of government interference to carry out a wholesale media takeover without ever having to, chamber around?
The Republican apparatus has, for the last decade, been looking at Viktor Orban's Hungary and drooling. They have been holding conservative conventions over in Hungary. We have had like Fox News hosts going over not just to Hungary, but Tucker Carlson went to Russia to sit down with Putin for like a glowing softball interview. And that's because all of these people no longer believe in the Constitution. They believe in power for power's sake, and that they can and should do anything to extinguish the opposition, up to and including imprisoning them and stripping away all of their constitutionally protected rights. And we are seeing, going back to what we talked about in the last episode, last time I was on, we are seeing concentration camps built in the United States right now. If you think that undocumented workers are the only people that are intended for those camps, you are delusional, because history gives us a very clear roadmap for how fascism works. They start with the most vulnerable, and then they go for the political enemies. And there may be some incrementalism, like they'll go for stripping citizenship of naturalized Americans first before they start going after natural born Americans, people whose first and second generations away are still Americans. Like, we're gonna work there. It's going to be incremental, but it's not going to be slow.
Yeah. And I don't think we need to look to history to divine Trump's intentions. I mean, he was caught on a hot mic, I think it was with Bukele, in the Oval Office saying homegrowns are next. Mm-hmm. There's only one thing that could mean, and it is exactly what you're warning about. He is going after his domestic political enemies and everything from alligator Alcatraz. I want to call it something else. Alligator
Auschwitz.
Alligator Auschwitz. To his deployments of active duty troops to LA. These are all tests. These are all setting the stage. The dismissal of Stephen Colbert by Paramount is another test. How much can I get away with? And it turns out he's been able to get away with damn near everything so far. And look, that's a topic for our next conversation. But man, the resistance has really got to start locking arms around this stuff.
Yep. Yeah. So last thing, I know I've done it 3 times now. I'm going to do it a 4th. Make sure that you're subscribed to Ken and my Substack. Look for On Offense with Kris Goldsmith. Look for the Ken Harbaugh Show on Substack. If you want to support us in continuing this fight, please support us directly. We cannot depend on billionaires and their nonprofits to support us. We need the people to come together and support the fighters. And Ken and I are just 2 of them. If you want to support our colleagues instead of us, good, that's fine. But this like reliance on mega corporations like Paramount or billionaires like Jeff Bezos, it's not working. It's not working. It hasn't worked in the past. It's not going to work in the future. It's going to be everyday Americans who stand up to stop this fascist regime.
Yep. Thanks, Kris. As always, we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.